So it's not just about depriving yourself
Right.
of something, which I think is how some people kind of approach the giving up. But it's about creating that space to do something new or different. That allows you, again, to like kind of connect in with what's most important in this season.
Welcome all of you to Tiny Pulpit Talks. We are so glad you're here. I'm Reverend TJ.
And I'm Reverend Beth.
And we are here to talk about something really fun and exciting that we do every year here at church, the Lenten season.
Yes.
Yes. Beth, what's the Lenten season?
It is the 40 days leading up to Easter.
Where does it come from in the tradition that we are in?
It comes from, well, the story of Jesus and his life, and these 40 days where he was wandering in the wilderness before arriving in Jerusalem and being crucified. But
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
The pathway.
That's where it comes from.
It's also in the Hebrew scriptures, the flood lasted for 40 days and 40 nights in Genesis.
Lots of 40 days.
And there's also 40 years that people were roaming in the desert. There's all sorts of 40s.
Yes.
40 is an important word in the Judeo-Christian tradition.
Yeah.
So.
And in this case, it's, Lent is 40 days of kind of connecting with the deepest parts of our humanity and our mortality and fragility as human beings, and of wandering through the wilderness in a way on this journey towards Easter. Yeah,
every year we still give up something for Lent. I was raised in a tradition that follows other practices, dietary practices during Lent and other things like that, but always there was an idea of giving something up that was sacrificing. I mean, sometimes I give up giving up things, which is more about excess, but that's all just trying to be a funny kid.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and part of the giving up is also giving up things that are getting in the way of you really accessing that deeper part of humanity and of seeing clearly and of connecting with the holy and those sorts of things. So those habits or those practices or those things that are just kind of clouding that, or,
I last year gave up or stopped. I didn't watch any streaming television series. I only watched live sports and films for 40 days and 40 nights.
How was that?
It was really kind of wild.
Yeah.
I felt a change. I felt my attention was a little bit better, and I just frankly wasn't sitting as much. And I don't know, there's a feeling that happens when I'm streaming a lot of episodes of something, whether it's Bake Off or Shogun or whatever it is, that's just different with film and sports.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, with streaming shows, you can binge them, whereas with live things, you cannot. Like, I think there's something to the binging. Yeah.
What about you? What have you given up recently?
I don't often give things up for Lent.
Preach. Bring it. Tell me more.
One of the things that the way that growing up that it was framed was that, you can give things up, but it's also about kind of committing maybe to something new.
Yes.
Or it can be both of those things. So it's not just about depriving yourself of something, which I think is how some people kind of approach the giving up. But it's about creating that space to do something new or different.
Yeah.
That allows you, again, to like kind of connect in with what's most important in this season.
I've heard people who just commit to doing 5,000 steps a day, walking, or just something like that, and have had deep and profound differences. And so I like this idea of adding to, because naturally we know how space and object permanence works. If you add something to a set of 24 hours, you're also removing something.
But I will say that, and this has not been a Lenten practice for me this year, but as part of the burning service in January, which is also a time of, giving up or letting go of things. what I wrote on my paper this year, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit in a sermon coming up, is that I wanted to let go of unfulfilling consumption.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like this Lent might be a good time for me to even dig into that deeper. Like that's something that's a theme for my year, but I feel like it's got a special relevance around this season too.
Yeah. I wrote on the paper giving up judging people I don't know, which has been really hard.
That's hard for so many of us, yeah. Because it's like our brains almost automatically do that.
I know. But I wonder how I will link that into, that's a really good idea to kind of renew that practice. Yeah. And that leads us to maybe saying something about the trajectory of our sort of Lenten practice here at the church. It starts with actually the burning service where every piece of paper is burned in the first service of the year, where we write things on them. And the burning of those pieces of paper are what create the ashes for Ash Wednesday. Yeah. And then at Ash Wednesday, do you want to talk about that service?
And then Ash Wednesday is, the ritual that begins the season of Lent, where we, put ashes on our forehead or on our hands and are reminded that, we come from dust and to dust we will return. It's a reminder of our, the finiteness of our human lives, and that we come from and return to that same place, to the earth, and to make the most of that time that we have.
Right. And then we follow Ash Wednesday with a Lenten series that explores all the different things that we've talked about. Some it might be giving things up, some it might be adopting other practices, and we focus on ways that our spiritual journey like that can be explored together in community, which is another piece, because we talk about this all together every Sunday. No one is doing this alone. Right. So that's part of that communal aspect of Lent also, is that even though many of the traditions were about being alone in a wilderness or being scared in the water or in the waves, part of being together to do this is what is really important to us as religious people.
Yeah. And so we come together each Sunday throughout Lent. And then towards the end of the Lenten season, we've got a couple more big worship services. Yep. So we got Maundy Thursday, which is that Thursday before Easter.
Yep.
In our church, we kind of combine Maundy Thursday and Good Friday, the stories of those, but it's this beautiful service where the light gets lower and lower. It's telling the story of the Last Supper, of Jesus' Last Supper and his betrayal and his death.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
And we can't talk about what comes that next Sunday yet, because at least in my tradition, growing up, you actually can't even sing the word hallelujah in worship during Lent.
Yeah.
Until you get to Easter.
Not until Easter.
Oh, we said it. We said Easter.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know it's coming, but we're not going to talk about that yet.
We're going to talk about Easter in another episode, but this is a lot of what we do for Lent. I mean, we put a lot of thought into this. This has been a tradition that has grown up in this church and in churches around the world for millennia, really.
Yes.
So,
we are not doing this alone as individuals, and we are not doing this alone as a church. There are so many people who are engaged in these practices.
Exactly. So we invite all of you to give some thought to what you've heard here. Join us on Sundays, tune in, do whatever it is that you want to do, but be together at this time and come and explore some of these spiritual practices that we're going to be talking about. So we look forward to welcoming you.
Yeah. See you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday.